Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. Okay, so in today's video we're going to be talking about the 5 things that you need to know about this new moon in Aries taking place on the 1st of April 2022. However, before we do dive into this video, I would like to know, what are some things that you think others need to know or should know about this new moon in Aries? I will be talking about 5, but I'm sure there are plenty more things to mention. Okay, so on that note, I do hope that you find this video to be helpful. Let's do this. Okay, so the first thing that you need to know about this new moon in Aries taking place on the 1st of April 2022 is that it will conjunct the sun in Aries at 11 degrees. So creating the number 11 in numerological terms. And the interesting thing about the number 11 is that it's a master number. This is the number of the creator, the visionary, the enlightened leader, the independent. 11 represents dignity, presence, inspiration, and optimism, and so on. Now, also keep in mind that for quite some time we have been experiencing 12-degree new moons, creating the number 3 in numerological terms. So there is a big shift in energy here. And what a mighty shift at that. New moons, of course, they represent new beginnings and setting new intentions and planting new seeds. During the new moon, we really do reflect upon the things we would like to achieve, how we wish to move forward. We contemplate and we go inward. And so with this being a number 11 new moon, well, it's a time to create. And given that this new moon is in Aries, well, it's about action. We are reflecting upon things like energy, inspiration, excitement, motivation, freedom, drive, assertiveness, spontaneity, and our goals. Plus, the exciting thing about this is that all the planets will be direct during this new moon, only adding more fuel. We might feel like we have an opportunity, this window, to really rush ahead and to do all the things. Now, as someone who was born during an Aries moon, I have certainly been feeling this fire in my stomach. I love Aries season because I feel more revitalized. I've actually set new goals and I have new projects in mind, new creative projects, and I feel pretty good about these things. I do love that Aries season aligns with springtime in the northern hemisphere. Aries and spring they go hand in hand. So this idea of flowers just bursting through the earth and coming into the sunlight, this depicts the Aries personality, the Aries energy very, very well. And what we often find when it comes to Aries personalities is their ability to move and to motivate themselves, their ability to jump into action and to get things started, how they face challenges head on, and they don't easily give up. Well, provided that whatever it is worth their time, of course, and provided that they don't get impatient. Though on that note, I would just say that Aries is quite the headstrong archetype, full of passion and courage. Aries is the pioneer of the zodiac, and so therefore during this new moon, consider these qualities. Perhaps you will reflect upon the part of you that is a pioneer. Perhaps you will start something new with assertiveness and direction. Though, what I would just like to mention quickly is, like I said, I have my moon in Aries, and what I am coming to learn is how impulsive I can be. And so that is something to consider when it comes to Aries energy as well. It's this notion of jumping into things and not really thinking things through. Yes, it's also about being able to take risks, but there's also times when it's better just to take a step back and to count a little bit and then plan things out a little bit and then move forward. Okay, so let's say this new moon is taking place in your first house. So looking at you, Aries, sun, moon, and risings. Perhaps during this new moon, you reflect upon your individual life path and you set new goals. Maybe there is something you really want to start. There is something that you really want to achieve. And so during this new moon, you set new intentions. You set intentions to win. But you do so knowing that you're going to stay in your own lane. Okay, there can also be the side to Aries that can be quite competitive. But maybe it's about recognizing that we're all on our own individual journeys. Then again, maybe you contemplate goals when it comes to your physical appearance. I know for me, I started going to the gym last week. I hadn't been in 3 years for obvious reasons, but it feels good to be back. I am looking forward to achieving my fitness goals and working on myself. But as I say, at the same time, I'm also trying to keep in mind that I'm on my own path. Perhaps you, as somebody who is an Aries, so you got your sun, moon, or rising in Aries, you're watching this, well, perhaps you work on yourself in a different way. And perhaps these things come to light during this new moon. Or let's say this new moon is taking place in your 9th house, so looking at you, Leo, sun, moon, and risings. Perhaps during this new moon, you reflect upon your individual beliefs, and so you start something new. Maybe you discover a new faith, or you want to practice a new religion, or maybe you have a travel destination goal in mind. And so during this new moon, you contemplate the things you want to do whilst traveling. Perhaps you wish to live abroad even, but solo. Then again, it could be that you think over higher education goals. Maybe you want to go back to school, for example. Or maybe you come to terms with what is right for you. Or let's say this new moon is taking place in your 5th house, so looking at you, Sagittarius, sun, moon, and risings. Perhaps during this new moon, you reflect upon your individual hobbies or your creative projects, and so you set new intentions. Maybe you consider what makes you feel good, what brings you joy, what you truly enjoy doing. It could be that you start an entirely new art form. Then again, perhaps you contemplate the goals you have when it comes to children. Maybe you put your children first, or quite possibly you reflect upon love and dating. You consider what your goals are within love and how you take action when it comes to romantic relationships. Or perhaps it's that you reflect upon your individuality within your romantic relationships. Moving on to the second thing that you need to know about this new moon in Aries, and that is that both the sun and moon in Aries will conjunct Mercury and Chiron in Aries. Now, Chiron has been hanging out in Aries for quite some time, and Chiron here has been bringing up themes like self-doubt when it comes to action, being fearful of putting ourselves first, issues when it comes to our identity, giving up due to fear of rejection, difficulties fighting our corner and standing up for ourselves, and feeling rageful on the inside because we didn't assert ourselves. Whilst these are insecurities that we may be experiencing during this time, there is also an opportunity to heal and to mend our wounds. And we can do this by attempting to push forward and not being ashamed of our identity. Perhaps with the help of others, they can teach us to mend these wounds. Then again, perhaps it's that there's more internal stuff to really look at, seeing as we're coming up to a new moon in Aries. So reflecting deeply upon our wounds. Perhaps during this new moon, we feel these wounds and these insecurities come up. We feel quite sensitive. Perhaps we turn to our loved ones for help, for reassurance. Or maybe we can set new intentions in association with embracing our identity. Moreover, with Mercury being in Aries during this new moon, there is a sense of honesty here. So being open and honest about our insecurities, about the things we feel that keep us back. Perhaps we feel a need to communicate with passion, or perhaps it's a matter of getting things off our chest, nipping things in the bud. So getting it out once and for all, or maybe we arrive at new conclusions and decisions quite quickly. Next thing you know, you're moving forward with your life and you're feeling excited. Or maybe there is this little voice in the back of your mind that doubts you, that questions what you're capable of. Those insecurities, they start to creep in. Insecurities associated with action, assertion, and leadership and independence. But you know what? You can turn around and say, not today, Satan. You can put the middle finger up to these things, such an Aries thing. And you can decide to move forward. Though, of course, it is not as simple as this. It's not as black and white as this. It can be quite a complex thing. So let's say that this new moon is taking place in your 12th house. So looking at you, Taurus, sun, moon, and risings. Perhaps during this new moon, insecurities start to creep in when it comes to your hidden self, when it comes to the part of you that others don't see on a daily basis. Maybe over the last few years, you've been finding it particularly challenging to act on your goals and to get things started. And maybe others don't know how much this really gets to you behind the scenes. But perhaps you set new intentions here. You're open and you're raw about how you feel deep down. And by being honest with yourself, you initiate something new. Maybe you've been working through what it means to put yourself first. And so during this new moon, you reflect upon a new way to do just that. Or let's say this new moon is taking place in your 8th house. So looking at you, Virgo, sun, moon, and risings. Perhaps during this new moon, insecurities start to creep in when it comes to your psychology, when it comes to your the subconscious parts of you that you've been working so hard on over the last few years. Maybe you've desperately wanted to move forward, but you keep coming up against emotional challenges time and time again. The struggle is real. Perhaps you've transformed greatly, but there's still more to be done, okay? And so, during this new moon, you embrace something new. Maybe you're open and honest about your anger or about your inner frustrations or about your sexuality. Or maybe you unleash something to do with these things. Your emotions are very raw when it comes to these things. And as someone who has a Virgo rising, I can have the tendency of burying my anger. And I have been working through some heavy stuff in association with my sexuality. So yeah, I am hoping that this new moon is an eye-opening time for me. But as I say, if you have your sun, moon, or rising in Virgo, perhaps you can relate in some way. Or let's say this new moon is taking place in your 4th house, so looking at you, Capricorn, sun, moon, and risings. Perhaps during this new moon, insecurities start to creep in when it comes to your living situation or your family life, or when it comes to your emotional security. Maybe over the last few years, you've been experiencing challenges when it comes to these things, such as feeling like you can't defend yourself against a certain family member, or perhaps you don't put your emotional needs first. Therefore, during this new moon, maybe you set new intentions. You decide to move forward. Perhaps you tell it like it is to a family member, or maybe you make the decision to do what you need to do for yourself. And as you do these things, you are open and you're honest about how you feel. Then again, maybe there is a level of privacy and feeling like you shouldn't have to explain yourself to others. The third thing that you need to know about this new moon in Aries is that the Aries stellium, it will quintile Pluto in Capricorn during it. Now, Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008, and this transit has been bringing up themes to do with power and control in association with business, authority and success, and so on. And when it comes to quintiles in astrology, they are representative of potential talents along with our desire to build upon things. And so, in this respect, during this new moon, consider your passions and your motivations when it comes to success, for example. Or think about what you wish to build long term as an individual. Address what your independent long term goals are. Consider your personal power when it comes to being a pioneer, when it comes to being a leader. Maybe you possess a talent when it comes to self-employment and professionalism, or maybe you're talented at motivating businesses and companies. Then again, it could be that you're good at keeping up with the structure of things, how things are built from the ground up, how things are organized. Though, on the other hand, seeing as Chiron is coming into the equation, by overcoming your fears and insecurities in association with action and assertiveness, well, perhaps you are more ambitious. Maybe you transform when it comes to discipline and success. Or maybe by committing to your goals and by being somewhat responsible for yourself, you feel more energized. It could be that the new moon just brings up these themes. So let's say this new moon is taking place in your 10th house. So looking at you Cancer, Sun, Moon and risings. This means that Pluto in Capricorn is transiting your 7th house. Therefore, during this new moon, you reflect upon the things that motivate you within your profession. Maybe you've been experiencing major transformations within your relationships, and so you feel an urge to execute your professional goals. For example, of course, that's just one example. Or maybe you contemplate the ways in which you act in front of the public. Perhaps you feel an urge to be a leader amongst the public. But again, it could be that your relationships, they have something to do with this, okay? Perhaps your partner encourages you to go after what you want. Maybe it's that you possess a talent when it comes to business or self-employment or coaching or negotiating. Or let's say this new moon is taking place in your 6th house, so looking at you Scorpio, Sun, Moon and risings. This means Pluto in Capricorn is transiting your 3rd house. Therefore, during this new moon, you reflect upon the things that motivate you when it comes to work or when it comes to your health and your routines. Maybe you've been going through major transformations in association with communication and learning. And so you feel an urge to bring your skills to your working life. For example, if you've been studying something over the past few years, maybe you set new intentions as a way to make this subject a part of your daily practice. Then again, it could be that an intellectual skill helps you when it comes to your health. Or perhaps it's that there's a change in mindset here. Or maybe it's that you set intentions to implement a routine that makes you feel energetic and excited. The 4th thing that you need to know about this new moon in Aries is that the Aries stellium will semi-square Venus in Aquarius during it. Now, the thing about semi-squares is that they can point towards some stress and tension. They aren't as strong as the square, but some tension can play out between the two or more planets involved. And the thing about Venus is that it's been together with Mars in Aquarius for the last few weeks, so they've been conjunct. Now, this Venus and Mars conjunction in Aquarius has been a great time for us to think differently when it comes to relationships, to seek alternatives when it comes to money, and to experiment when it comes to our materials and our possessions, etc. It has been a great time to consider outside of the box ideas when it comes to work, money, and connection. Now, Saturn has also been joining the party, all right? So there's been structure and organization involved. Things have been quite serious. There's a level of maturity to consider. And with this semi-square to the Aries stellium, well, perhaps there is a part of us that realizes that there are a few things to finish up before we jump on to the next thing. You might feel all of this energy to rush forward, for example, but at the same time, there are other responsibilities to attend to. Maybe there is something to be said about igniting childlikeness, where we feel full of freedom and spontaneity, whilst simultaneously considering what we have been working on throughout the last few weeks. Then again, maybe during this new moon, we feel an urge to jump into a new creative project, but we also consider the steps to make it happen. We think about the focus that is needed and about our ability to invent something really great. Or maybe we feel motivated and full of life, but we also experience fears of failure. Or maybe we fear that others won't accept us for our new goals and for our new direction. We fear that we will be judged and ridiculed by our peers. But perhaps there is something to be said about embracing our uniqueness and our independence. Maybe you go off the beaten path, regardless of what others say or think. So on that note, let's say this new moon is taking place in your second house. So looking at you Pisces, sun, moon and risings. This means Venus in Aquarius is transiting your 12th house. Therefore, during this new moon, you reflect upon what you would like to create when it comes to your finances and your materials. Maybe you have new goals in mind, but underneath you fear that others will judge you or think you're weird or strange for executing these new goals. Then again, maybe it's that there are a few things to finish up behind the scenes before you jump into a new project. Though another possibility is that you reflect upon your self-worth during this new moon. Self-worth in association with your identity or in association with your path, your direction. And as you do so, fears, they start to come up. Fears associated with not being included or not being accepted, for example. And this can be a very healing experience for you. Or let's say this new moon is taking place in your 11th house. So looking at you Gemini, sun, moon and risings. This means Venus in Aquarius is transiting your 9th house. Therefore, during this new moon, you reflect upon what you would like to create when it comes to your hopes and wishes for the future. Maybe you set new intentions when it comes to your future plans. But as you do this, there are things you want to finish up in association with travel or higher learning. Maybe you must finish a course before you move on to something new. Though another possibility is you reflect upon your social groups during this new moon. You think about the type of groups you want to be a part of, or you reflect upon leadership within groups. And as you do, you realize that you need to widen your vision to educate yourself further beforehand. And the fifth and final thing that you need to know about this new moon in Aries taking place on the 1st of April 2022 is that both the sun and moon in Aries will semi-sextile Uranus in Taurus. Now, Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018, and this transit has been bringing up themes to do with sudden changes and futurism in association with money, security, and pleasure. And when it comes to semi-sextiles in astrology, they are representative of fine-tuning between the planets involved. This can be a slightly challenging process, but with some gentle effort, things can sync up. And so, with both the Sun and Moon in Aries, semi-sextile Uranus in Taurus, perhaps there is something to be said about performing some fine-tuning when it comes to our material and financial goals. Or perhaps we're performing some fine-tuning when it comes to our self-worth goals, the inner, looking at the inner process, our inner security. Now, we might feel like rebelling where we act stubbornly. We might not want to budge. We might not want to move or do anything that doesn't make us feel comfortable. Then again, perhaps we are forced to make breakthroughs. Maybe things happen suddenly and so we have no other choice in the matter. We must change in some way. Still, such changes can be a shock to the system. But perhaps by implementing qualities of assertiveness and taking charge, we can roll with it. Maybe we can embrace the new with passion and excitement. So let's say, for example, that this new moon is taking place in your 7th house. So looking at you, Libra, Sun, Moon, and risings. This means that Uranus in Taurus is transiting your 8th house. Therefore, during this new moon, you reflect upon goals when it comes to your relationships, but at the same time, there are disruptions occurring on an intimate, emotional level. Or maybe there are disruptions going on when it comes to joint finances and resources and debt. Maybe such disruptions, they challenge your relationship goals or vice versa. But with some fine tuning, you and your partner can agree upon something that works for you both. Then again, maybe during this new moon, you contemplate how you act within your relationships, but there are still some psychological things that you're finding challenging to move on from. Again, though, maybe with fine tuning, you consider how you wish to move forward whilst also knowing your worth. Or let's say this new moon is taking place in your 3rd house. So looking at you, Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and risings. This means Uranus in Taurus is transiting your 4th house. So during this new moon, maybe you reflect upon your goals when it comes to learning. But at the same time, there are disruptions going on at home. Maybe there are disruptions happening between your family members or within yourself. But maybe these disruptions happening within yourself stem from disruptions that went on within your family home. Maybe these chaotic events, they result in you feeling unfocused. Or maybe your mindset is impacted. Or perhaps your family, they feel challenged by you. But with some fine tuning, maybe you don't give in to petty arguments, for example. Or maybe you seek inner calm and you refuse to be shaken up. Then again, maybe during this new moon, you contemplate how you think, but there are still some emotional matters to attend to. Perhaps with some fine tuning, you realize how much your emotions and your thoughts are connected, i.e. addressing the emotional stuff. Addressing the emotional stuff can help with your thoughts, and your mindset can impact how you feel. Now, as an Aquarius, my sun is in Aquarius, I can relate to this very much. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my video all about the 5 things that you need to know about this new moon in Aries taking place on the 1st of April 2022. Again, please let us know other things that you think others need to know about this new moon. Let us know in the comment section down below. And also let us know your thoughts and opinions on today's video. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And of course, if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then make sure that you click that subscribe button and give this video a like if you did like it today. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye.